NCRP Productions presents the Fireside Chat series. NCRP Productions presents an interview with, well, us. And this is Barry and
Pedro.
And we decided we'd give you kind of a little insight into what we're thinking we're doing here in our normal way, which is never getting to the point and running around in circles, right? I mean, that's pretty much how we do everything.
I mean, yeah, but it gets done.
As
maybe.
we go farther, well, yeah, exactly, maybe. I mean, often you're going to see in at least the Dishonored Well and a couple other things that are already in the works for us, you're going to see that a straight line for us is about as crooked as you can possibly be. And sometimes it's really crooked.
Yeah, we like to follow shiny things.
That's very true. That's very true. So, Pedro, how long have you been gaming?
I was thinking about that the other day, actually. It's been at least, I want to say, 11 or 12 years. 11 or 12 years, okay. I want to say, yeah. I started with something I'm pretty sure I was given as a gift, probably from your shop.
Oh, my God. Okay.
It was 3.5. Actually, no, I don't think it was 3. I think it was 3.0. Okay. The box set.
Oh, good.
I don't know if you remember what it looks like. It's got like a black dragon on the front, yellowish box.
Right.
And so I remember one day my mom brought that to me and was like, "Hey, here, I got this for you. You like games."
Right.
I was like, "Cool, D&D. I have no idea what to do with this." Cuz I remember seeing it as a kid when I lived in Garberville. There was a shop, and I forget the name of it. It's weird.
Kids and More or something like that,
Yes, it was.
Right?
It was Kids and More. It was the weirdest thing. It was like half baby clothes and half like card games.
Well, my understanding is the couple that owned it were gamers, were big-time gamers, were buying cards, doing some role-playing. I know the gentleman used to come into my store, which my store, if you don't know, is North Coast Role-Playing, or NCRP. You'll start seeing a connection there. But he would come in and get D&D stuff, dice, books, papers, that kind of thing. So
yeah, and I remember one time walking in there, and I mean I was pretty young at that point, and I saw all these people like sitting at a table with pen and paper and like little miniatures, and then on there they had a little rack that had like D&D stuff, and I was like, well, that looks neat, but I have no idea what the hell's going on, so I'm gonna go play Magic.
You weren't instantly drawn in by all the kind of weirdos sitting at a table?
No, all the teens sitting there at the table laughing or doing whatever. No, I just went and bought a pack of cards and went on with my day. And then I think there was even like a week. I think that was like a weekly D&D thing. But I mean, there was surprisingly, Garberville actually had a couple places to game. HeroClix was another one. Roberto's.
Yep.
That was old school for me. I loved it. But yeah, so I got that box set and I kept it for probably a year or so, not knowing what to do with it. I actually ended up getting a couple of random things. Funny enough, without even the player's guide, I didn't even get that first. I got the 3.5 Weapons of Legacy book.
Oh, God.
Because it looked cool.
It was cool.
It was. It had all these cool things, and I remember looking and being like, what are all these numbers about? There's just interesting stories. And then I eventually bought a player's... By I bought, I mean my parents bought me a player's handbook, also at your shop. And then I remember looking through it and being like, wow, this is so neat. But no one I know is going to want to play this, which little did I know, most people I knew would have. Everybody would have. And so then finally one day, and I mean, this is after like a year of building random characters for myself, trying to figure the numbers out. One day I got my friends together, one of which would never even touch a role-playing game if not for being kind to me.
Okay.
And another one, my two other friends, it was him and his new girlfriend at the time. She, funny enough, had a name that was based off of a Dungeons & Dragons character.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a whole story, but super just random. We were trying to find something to do. I was like, well, let's play this. It's like a board game or something. And so I pulled it out and with no prep, just kind of read it as we went. And it was super fun. I mean, the first little bit was a talking mirror that tries to suck you in. None of them fell for it. I mean, my friends were all video gamers, so they're immediately suspicious of everything.
Right, sure.
We had no sense of character or anything like that. So, cool, very fun. And then we get to, like, the third room, and it's a room populated by just mushrooms. And in the middle, you describe the one varying thing, other than this room of mushrooms, is this big purple mushroom with a cloud of spores around it. And I'm like, and I'm reading it, and it's like, if anybody comes into this square, they need to make a really high con save, or they're going to die. It's just instant-death. And what does one player do? I want to go explore that square. And I'm like, okay. I re-describe it and say, are you sure? She's like, yes, I want to go explore that square. And I look, and I'm like, okay, roll me a constitution save. She's like, okay. She rolls a really horrendous number. I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, okay, you, as I flip the book open, start to sprout mushrooms from every part of your body, and you die. For the first half an hour of the game. And then she's like, what? I die? And she's like shocked. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you went after a mushroom spore. Like, okay, because I knew if she died, she would taken my friend away in the game.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So
you're a
I was
teenage
like,
boy.
I was like, okay, a god of something or other comes down, resurrects you, and says, all right, don't be stupid, and leaves. And none of them died after that, which was good for the game. But then we finished the whole module that night, and then I started actually running the game. And before I realized about scale or like imagination, just like running things in your mind, I was like, okay, so you need maps. So I bought that giant pad of gridded paper.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And I'm talking about, you think I just drew on one piece? No, I wish I still had it. I took 4 pieces and taped them together and drew out a two quote scale map of a village.
Oh my god.
And then I had to flip it on the back and do another one for the inside of the buildings. And it was one of my favorite early games that I ran, all from my head. It was great. But then I luckily realized, oh, I don't need to draw to scale maps for everything. And then, yeah, after that, I just started running more and more. All my friends actually really digged it. And, yeah, so then I just kept on playing intermittently.
It's crazy to think that if you've been playing about 12 years, you have been playing just slightly longer than my son has played. Now, he doesn't play regularly now, and I think he'd be ashamed to hear that anyone hear that he plays anything close to regularly. But for a while there, he was playing with my gaming group and having a really good time at it. It's a fun. It's a great thing to do. It doesn't take a whole lot of anything except thought and involvement. And for younger people, it's socializing, it's problem solving, it's reading and writing basic stuff you should be learning in school, which we don't learn in the schools here. Mm-hmm. Well, good. So tell me, when you think about the games, what's the favorite game you've played in? Not necessarily specifically an individual night, but what's your favorite game you've played in?
Gosh, my favorite game I've played in. Well, System-wise, that's a tough one because two jump out.
All right, I'll give you 2.
Yeah, 2 jump out of my mind. One of them was that Mutant Year Zero game that you ran.
Okay.
Because I really dug the system. The world was crazy cool. Highly recommend that to anybody. Great game. They have everything from mutants to animals to robots. Great. And then another one is a random small one, which I really liked, called Wilderness of Mirrors. And it's a spy-based game. And the real fun about it, we came together, a group of us. Michael actually ran that one as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
Michael, someone you'll hear running our game. And so the real fun part about it is that Michael didn't have to come up with a story. And it's actually surprising how well this works. He comes up with a little tag, which, if I remember right, the tag was stop the assassination of a UN ambassador, like something simple like that. And then it's up to the players to spend 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how long. There's bonuses and cons for how much time you take.
Okay.
Building the story. So you say that, okay, it's I forget who he did. I think it was like, North Korea had sent in an assassin. This whole thing. Oh no, had set up a nuke. Oh, where's the nuke? Oh, it's in the basement. And you just, every detail you come up with gives you more dice, so that when you're being James Bond, which that's what it's about, it's a spy game.
Okay.
You get to roll more dice. You could be like, I really want this to succeed, so I have all these points. But the longer you take, the more complication dice the GM gets. So they can just throw wrenches. So even if you have the most strict plan, why is that guard not there? Complication. And that was just really fun. It was a full night of us just coming up with this cool story. I still have the notes. And then flubbing our way through it.
Almost sounds like Fiasco and some of the ones that play like that,
Mm-hmm.
where you're not given a script, you're given pieces of the script, and you work on building them from there. So I was laughing earlier. You said the spy game, and my little gray cat decided to pop her ears just over the head of the table to peek and see what was going on. So as far as NCRP Productions and what we want to do, the umbrella, the vision for me with the umbrella probably goes back to 1987 or thereabouts. I was up at the Fantasy Gamers Guild at Humboldt State University, and we were producing a newsletter there, and I felt like what I was doing was better than what other people were doing. I'm not going to tell you it was. I'm just going to tell you I felt that way, and we decided to split the newsletter, and I decided I was going to try making a magazine, which came in as North Coast Role-Playing, Gaming from Behind the Redwood Curtain. We produced 9 issues of the magazine. I had subscribers for the magazine in Japan and Germany, all across the United States. Kind of a crazy start. And at that point, most everybody that I had involved, and there were people, I had a guy from St. Louis, I had a guy from New York that were becoming a part of the fanzine. And that's really what it was a fanzine. But we had talked about producing games, role-playing games. We talked about producing supplements. The issue 4, for example, we did as a traveler supplement, and I just grabbed every single person that I knew that liked Traveler in some form, and said, hey, write me something for it. New weapons, new adventures, new character classes, new aliens, whatever you wanted to do. But the idea being, and again, long before Kickstarter, the idea being, if we wanted to do something, we needed an umbrella for it. So NCRP Productions has been around, I would say, in some idea way, since 1987. But more closely, you and I started talking about podcasts, maybe about a year ago?
Yeah,
maybe a year and a half?
Been about a year and a half, yeah.
And at the time, I said, who would watch those? I mean, I distinctly remember saying, who would watch it? And now I am a year and a half later, and I have probably 150 podcasts, either partially or fully listened to, under my belt. And we had talked about, why don't we try it? It sounded like something that would be fun to do. At best, maybe we could capitalize on it. At worst, we can throw it out there and just have a good time doing it. And hopefully not everybody just harangues us about how bad we are. I know those first couple episodes that we're going to be putting up, we were learning editing, we were learning the boards.
Be gentle with us about the tapping.
That's true.
There's a few things we didn't realize.
The chip clicking.
Yes.
The chip clicking is definitely going to be a thing in those episodes.
It will get better.
So I still envision for years the group that I was playing with, Tuesday that became Monday, that became Sunday, that became Monday again, had talked about producing a Kickstarter role-playing game, or Kickstartering a supplement, or any of those type of things. And this would be a great venue for that. But for now, we're going to focus on podcasts. Yeah. And we were talking about doing podcasts, and I think we discussed a little bit. Dungeons and Dragons has people like Critical Role, Acquisitions Inc., all of that kind of stuff, and many more that are out there. But those are the big ones I know. And then for Pathfinder, there's the Glass Cannon podcast. But again, you look for those. There's many of them. when I picked up running, or at least was going to run Unhallowed, when I was going to take Unhallowed Metropolis over from Dino, I wanted to see what people had done. You know, he had started the game for us, and we had had an amazing time with him. Really, really miss him. Dino passed a couple years back, and he's a lost treasure. He really is. But we had such a good time playing that game, and he had asked me, did I want to take over running? I had also kind of suggested it myself, and so I wanted to see what was out there. You know, what did people do? Because reading the book, I really had no idea of a story, and I went looking for. I don't know that I searched for the word podcast, because I'm not sure at that point I knew what that was, but I went looking for Unhallowed RPG, and nothing came up. And if you do the search now, there's not very much even today. You know, and here's a game that our group played for at least 2.5 years, maybe longer.
At least.
And this is one of the things I want to bring, definitely want to bring to the North Coast Role-Playing Productions podcast group. At some point, I want to start running that for this group again. But I wanted to make sure that there was stuff out there for it. And I remember we got in Dishonored. And we knew Modifius games from the Mutant Year Zero game. And we talked about it, and I remember Michael saying, well, I know that world, and you were the only other one at the table who had played the video game.
I played them,
So we went with that. So our first podcast is Dishonored, in part because we like the 2D20 system that it runs on. But in addition to that, I'm remembering that right. We are on the 2D20. God, we play so many doggone games.
Yes.
But the 2D20 system is a great system, and Michael picked it up and said, hey, guys, I'll run a one-shot. And we said, hey, let's put it on the podcast. And that one-shot is still going. It's still going.
I don't think I've ever successfully played a one-shot that hasn't turned into more.
Nope, that's true. Even the most recent one-shot we did was a 2-night one-shot. So, so 2 parts. Although I do notice that a number of the people that I'm watching podcasts from, their one-shots are cut up into 2 episodes. So I think that's acceptable in the podcast world.
I think so. I think as long as the content's good, I don't think people are going to complain.
So, what other games would you like to see us do? I mean, we have Dishonored, and we're working on that right now. Again, we've talked about Unhallowed. There are some things we have to go over, like building, bringing the readership or the listenership. Is it called a readership?
Listener, I don't know. I guess listeners.
Yeah, listeners. So that we will have
listeners.
to do something to catch listeners up, and you and I have been working on that. I'm not going to spill the beans on that, but we definitely need to catch them up. But what other games would you like to see, at least for you, done?
It's funny because I have that entire shelf of games that I have, and I've only played a fraction of them. So there's a lot of different games I would love to try. Well, one of them that I've played and know I like is End of the World, which is designed for, funny enough, one-shots, but great apocalypse of all kinds. I mean, they have a zombie book. It's Fantasy Flight, End of the World. Highly recommend it.
Sadly, Fantasy Flight doesn't produce it anymore.
Oh, they don't?
Nope.
Oh, why?
Nope.
That was such a good game.
It really was. My understanding from you was that you play yourself.
Yeah. So the premise of it is you're supposed to start the session with everybody coming together to play a role playing game, and it recommends that you as the dungeon master leave or exit or are somehow one of the first ones killed.
Okay.
So the first one that I ran, I sat everybody down, we got in game, and they're like, okay, everybody comes in, and I'm like, oh shoot, guys, I forgot something in the car. I go out, I leave, and then I'm like, yeah, 10 minutes goes by, and they're like, well, where's Pedro? They go out, I've been bitten by a zombie, and then all hell breaks loose.
Okay.
But they have that. I mean, they have
they have 4 books. They have the zombie book, the Wrath of the Gods book, which is
Wrath of the
Cthulhu.
Gods. Yep. Well, actually, you know what? I will say, out of all of them, out of all 4 of the books, out of everything, the Cthulhu one has the absolute smallest amount of stuff in it.
Interesting.
There's like Cthulhu, and that's actually something I wish they had done more of, is monsters and like creatures. Not enough of them. I know I can create them myself, but I don't want to do all that work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, it has like Cthulhu and like 2 other little creatures.
Wow.
And yeah, I was surprised about that. But yeah,
I thought that one covered like Ragnarok and
it
the
does.
Norse.
So Ragnarok, there's Norse, there's like, you remember that movie The Happening?
Right.
Yeah, there's The Happening, so trees and plants actually take over. And then I think that's it in that one. Oh, and there's the biblical apocalypse, the 4 horsemen.
Right.
Which that one. Oh, and Mayan apocalypse.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's the robot one.
There's the robot one, and then there's the aliens one.
The alien one. The alien one has everything from, they have Atlantis, Mars. They have ants, which from the
That's from the movie Them.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, no, I wouldn't run that. And then it also has
Note to self: I should run an ant. An ant apocalypse game. An ant end of the world.
And it has one other one I'm blanking, but it's got a lizard people.
Okay.
It's got the lizard people. I ran a semi-successful Atlantis game, which was fun.
Okay.
But yeah, super cool system. The robot one's cool. I haven't had a chance to delve into it very much.
You have all 4?
I have all 4.
So you'll have to spring that.
Yeah.
So end of the world.
End of the world.
Anything else that you'd love to bring forward?
One that I would love to play also, Morrow Project.
Morrow Project. Okay.
I have a chunk. I have the main book and then like 4 different modules, and it's just such a neat idea because I like post-apocalypse. For those who don't know, Morrow Project is you're a freezy. You've been frozen. You were supposed to be frozen until after a nuclear war or whatever the end times was.
Right.
And you were supposed to be only frozen for, I believe it's just a couple of years after.
Couple of years, and the idea being that you were supposed to be the best of the best. Mm-hmm. You were the best military man or science person or any of those things. When I say military man, I mean military person, but military science, medicine, all of these things.
You were specifically trained to bring order back. And then you wake up and find out it's way longer than a couple of years. I don't know if the players know right away, but it's about 100.
It kind of depends on which of the modules.
Oh yeah, I guess the different modules, but yeah. So you wake up years and years later, and same thing. I mean, you do what you can, try and bring order, whatever section of the world you're in, and just super neat. And it has a really fun, blood count mechanic.
Right.
So you can lose like a certain amount of blood, and it does stuff, which it sounds like it might be crunchy, but it might be fun crunchy.
So Morrow Project goes back into my days. So for me, I started in '79. I was going to high school and literally had just moved there in August and knew absolutely no one. And I was in a school where mathematics was kind of a secondary looked down upon subject, and I came from a college prep area. So I immediately was thrust in with one other freshman, one sophomore, and everybody else in the class was seniors. And the one freshman said, hey, we're kind of stuck in here. It's just us. I do this thing, this D&D thing. You want to come join? And Jeff Zebrak, if you're listening to this, all this insanity, it's your damn fault. He invited me over. I don't remember how many other people played, but we played. I had a great time doing it, and that was kind of the end of it for me. And that was, dating myself here, that was '79. Morrow Project, I think, is 80 or 81. But, yeah, it goes back to my time starting with it. And, yeah, the Freezies idea, I didn't know. The Vault idea now is attributed to Fallout, right? But it's definitely long before that. Long before, I mean, Fallout comes from Wasteland, the video game Wasteland, and Wasteland didn't have the Freezies in it, did it?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, like, the original Wasteland's an old, like, I don't know.
Commodore 64 game. Oh,
yeah. I was going to say Super Nintendo, or not Super, I was going to say just regular Nintendo, but it's even
it's long before Nintendo. The Nintendo, I don't even think was a thought yet.
So, I don't know. I mean, yeah, my first experience with, Vaults was Fallout 1.
Right.
So, but yeah, so there's that, and then, I mean, I have a couple more.
Give me one more. Give me a total of 3. So we've got End of the World, we got Morrow Project, and so one of the things that I'll interrupt Pedro. One of the things you're going to notice with us, most of this table does post-apocalypse. That is kind of what we do. Our current Tuesday night game is Deadlands Hell on Earth.
Oh, love Deadlands.
Boy, that we the Monday game has been Mutant Year Zero. It's been
Apocalypse World.
Apocalypse World. That's the one you run. That's one of the ones I'd like to see you bring back. But anyway, so your third option, try and make it not a post-apocalypse.
No,
you got one that's not.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. So I don't know which system, but I want to run a superhero game, or I want to play in or run a superhero game, and I can't decide which would be the best system, because I mean, there's like the oldie goodie ones. There's what is it?
You have Hero Champions.
Hero
you got
Champions.
Villains and Vigilantes.
That's the one. Mutants and Masterminds. I mean, even Savage Worlds or Worlds in Peril, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game.
Oh God, you can keep going. Palladium's hero system is just about as old as all the others too.
And I know I would have fun running it, because another group was like, hey, let's play a superhero game, and I come up with a story, and then nothing. So I have a story in my back pocket. But I mean, just playing that, because that's one game I've never got to play in. I've never got to play or run a superhero game. Okay, actually, I lied. I did do a little bit of Marvel superheroes, but I really wouldn't consider me running it.
Gotcha.
Correct. I mean, I was the only one that ever actually read those rules.
So villain of the week.
Yeah. Actually, more like, all right, so you get to be you're what is it? I was gonna say Batman. You're Captain America. You're
right.
Human Torch, and I'm this person. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
And then when we found out how it actually played,
it's really epic battles.
Yeah,
epic battles.
Exactly. And so we just like did that, but we didn't realize is that Marvel role playing system is incredibly brutal.
Oh yes.
And so that was one thing that made me realize that I had been playing it wrong at first, because I was like, wow, I just took this guy down in one hit. Did we do that right?
Right.
And yeah, no, it's just a quick
once
system.
you were if you're playing the chart one, once you were 2 or 3 shifts to the left or right of somebody, you were toast.
Yeah. Cool system though. I enjoyed it, and all it's like there's a lot of bits to it, a lot of funness to it. But yeah, so a superhero game.
Okay. Well, Villains and Vigilantes is my history. My friend Mike Strauss has all my V&V stuff, but we ran a game for, I don't know, it was more than a year, but it may not have been 2 full years. I was living off campus, going to Humboldt State, and I had a staple of people that would show up on a day. You know, hey, Tuesday we got 6 people here. You guys want to play? And so I had an East Coast group, a West Coast group. We had 48 active members. We had 29. I think I wrote this on Facebook because I was responding to something that Mike had put up recently, but I think now that I think about it, I think we had somewhere between 29 and 32 unique individual people playing those different characters. A couple people had 2, but they would whoever showed up, I would run the game for it. Although today, love you, Jeff D, but I'm not sure if V&V would be the one I would do. I had an entire book of house rules, and so my history is I don't think there was a game from FGU, which is called Fantasy Games Unlimited, but I think industry-wide was well known as Fantasy Games Unfinished. There was always a need for some kind of house rules. I think the most complete game I can remember was Psyworld, and even that needed a little tweaking. But yeah, superhero game. Ty, who's part of our podcast, you'll get to hear him when you start the podcast. Ty is going to be running a superhero game for us in the next couple of months. So maybe we'll treat the listeners to that and at least show them what we can do with superheroes. So for me, I haven't really figured out too much. I love post-apocalypse, of course, but I also like the alternate history stuff. So I ran 7C, and it's actually where my son got to play for a while. I ran 7C, which is John Wick's alternate future. The way I describe it to people is take everything that was fun between 1492 and 1850 that happened, except the discovery of the New World. Slam that all together into roughly a 10-year period, and then you play there. So anything that you can think of in that time frame, all the way up to Napoleon, running rampant across Europe. You have the splits of Charlemagne. You've got the destruction of the Spanish Armada by the English. You've got the schism. You have the destruction of the Holy Roman Empire and the breakup of the German states. None of those names are kept. Germany, for example, is Iceland. But I loved 7th. Now, he's done a second edition. I haven't read enough, so I will not comment against it. But I really loved first edition. There was a whole bunch of stuff in it. As I said, Unhallowed Metropolis is definitely something I want to return to. I had put a lot of effort into building the world that we played again for, I think it was 2 years, but had a lot of things going, a lot of irons in the fire, and we ended up stopping that one short. Third one, I'll tell you, it's crazy because it's D&D, so I'm not sure I would do it, but I love the Dark Sun world for Dungeons and Dragons. Another one of the group that you may get to hear on the podcast is Matt. Matt ran a Savage Worlds version of Dark Sun. One of the most enjoyable games I've been in. It was absolutely a lot of fun. So, and it's interesting how games go. You notice how you play the game, and during the game, while you're there, you're thinking, "Good Lord, I hope this guy takes his turn," and when's she going to finish espousing, giving her soliloquy so the rest of us can roll some doggone dice. But as you get farther and farther away, you ever notice how the bad, boring stuff kind of disappears, and just the really good, great, amazing. I wish we could figure out how to do that for the podcast without making too many breaks in the list. Because I know I do it. I know Michael does it. I know our group of players do it, where we're going along and suddenly something stops us. We can clip a little bit of it out. The point at which somebody gets up and, uses the facilities, that type of thing. We can cut that out. But you can't really cut out the pieces where we're doing nothing interesting and being exceptionally boring. So my promise, I think Pedro will agree with me, my promise is we're going to try and limit that as much as we can for anything we're giving you guys.
And I'm fairly certain as we do more, that's gonna just dip away.
I hope so.
I feel like we're, even in our boring parts, at least one of us tries to fill it in with something funny.
I agree with that. One of the things when we were talking about the podcast, going back to you and I discussing it, one of the things that we had talked about was being organic. I'm not calling anyone out, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but for me, a lot of the podcasts that I watched felt like there was, almost a script done. And again, I'm not calling anyone out, but when you watch some of them, there's just this feeling that this was discussed before we actually came on. Is it on camera? Is it on air? It's on air, right?
Air, yeah.
Okay. Before we come on air, we've discussed all of the pieces of it. So when something happens, you react the right way instead of the way that our group invariably does, which is, there's a door ahead of you, there's a door to your left, and we immediately grab shovels and dig into the ground. That is the way everyone I game with plays. And it can be a lot of fun for everyone, but hopefully the game master rolls with it. But we had talked about that, and I wanted to have it be organic. I wanted to have, the mistakes that we made be in there because we are all role players. We all love the craft. We wouldn't be here doing it if we didn't. But at this point, putting it up for free on YouTube tells you how much we love the craft.
Oh yeah, and just in the time that I've been playing with this group, it's that's always the fun thing is when I've ran or when anybody else has ran, the random crap that we do.
Oh my God!
Everybody rolls with it. Everybody can everybody, all of the GMs at this table have been good about, finding a way to work with it. Even if I need like 2 minutes to figure it out, which I think only has happened a couple times.
That's true. And honestly, I think we cut those parts out.
Yeah.
That's the one piece of production, folks, that we did is we cut the parts where we say, I'm turning the page, I'm looking here.
But and I like it because a lot of times, at least, especially in my games, and when I'm running, you'll probably see it. If something is out of left field and I just need to fill it, sometimes it's super random, but everybody always runs with it and is super fun about it, and it's like, all right, whatever, we can just move on. And it's great. It's great.
I'll tell you, for future podcasts, one of the ones that I'm very much hoping is you listen to Ty and you'll wonder sometimes as a character, what is he thinking? What is he doing? Because sometimes he gets very, very quiet. But he ran Primeval for us, and he's been running Primeval as a season series. Primeval, if you don't know, is a BBC show that followed up Walking with Dinosaurs. Basically, my understanding is the guys had all this beautiful dinosaur footage, and someone said, make money with it, and they produced the show Primeval. Neat premise. It gets better as the show goes on. The show, as with Fox and BBC, got cut short with not a huge cliffhanger, but a small cliffhanger. But Ty decided to pick it up and run it for us, and there's a perfect example of nothing goes right, and he's got to roll with us.
Oh God, no! I loved it. I had so much fun. Sometimes I felt bad for Ty with the stuff that we threw at him.
That's very true.
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't munchkin-y. It was just good. God, did our characters make some interesting choices?
Well, for Ty, I think Primeval is the third or possibly fourth, and I may be wrong, and Ty, if I am, I apologize, but I think it was actually the third or fourth game that he ran with somebody other than just his family. And he was running with 7 of us. I think he was running with 7 of us. I think my son was there at one point, so I think he ran 7. If you haven't been the game master, if you've been a player, and you've played with more than 3 or 4 players with a game master running for you, you don't realize how much the game master has to give. And once your numbers get over 6 or 7,
oh gosh,
it's a lot of work to run with. And Ty rolled with it pretty well. There were a couple of nights that we shut down early because he said, "You know what, guys, I got to figure out what I'm going to do next." But I'm hoping for that. Michael always comes up with something that nobody's ever heard of as far as gaming. I suspect if we didn't start the podcast with Dishonored, Michael would have come up with something that everyone would have been scrambling on the internet search to try and figure out, well, what is that? Where did he get that? What are you doing?
He's got his thumb on the pulse of all the new, like, random Kickstarter games and stuff.
Orphan games. For my store, that's what we call them, is orphan games. And it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that very few places carry them. I go, anytime I travel, I stop by game stores, hobby stores, and look and see what people have. And pretty regularly, they have Fantasy Flight Star Wars, which, by the way, is another thing I'd love to do on the podcast.
That one would be great.
They have D&D. Usually they have Pathfinder, and maybe just because they have Workshop, they have the Warhammer 40K
like
books.
Dark Heresy and all that.
Right, although those have disappeared and gone insanely priced. But they don't tend to have a big variety, and that's one of the things when I opened the store was to have as big a variety as we could. So Michael blows me away with the things that he finds that I've never seen before. So be some excitement to see what he brings out next too.
That's what I'm looking forward to about this, is just running and playing in all sorts of different kind of games that are. And I love D&D. I love Pathfinder. But at a certain point, you want to play something else.
Yeah.
Even if it's, I don't even have a problem playing fantasy, but a slightly different fantasy. I mean, there's, there's all kinds of different settings and stuff. So that's what I'm looking forward to. This Dishonored game has been so fun.
It really has.
It's been great. Love the system, love the world, and how it mimics, especially since I played the game.
Yeah, and I played it for a little while and got motion sickness. So I'm gonna tell you, for the game designers for the video game, it is absolutely beautiful. Hands off, great. Hats off to you folks for making Dishonored. It is a beautiful video game. Really love it. But I get that stupid motion sickness, so I didn't get to play for very long. But it was neat the 7 or 8 minutes I did play.
It's well worth it, and I know they have for anybody looking for a fun game to play. If you like assassins or being sneaky, or heck, even not being sneaky, they got a whole remastered edition, super fun one. And I never actually got to play 2, but now it's on my list.
Okay, good.
But yeah, so just like you're saying, all kinds of different games. That's what I'm looking forward to, and showing more games, because I love bringing people new games to try, because even D&D players, they try something new, the majority of them that I've showed something new to are like, wow, this is great.
This is a lot of
breaks
fun.
up the
Didn't know there
monotony.
was anything other
Yeah.
than D&D out there.
How many times can you kill a goblin before you're like, I want to kill something else?
All right, so I'm not going to be a Claude. I'm going to tell my cat, who's been sneezing this whole time, bless you, and we'll go back to it. I think that's what he was waiting for.
Yeah. So I mean, and as we're talking about all the different games, I'm starting to actually run some more in my
Sure.
head.
Sure.
But yeah, and this has just been fun. Just this right here is good. Even just talking about it and having just good time. So.
Well, this is something that we should wrap up now, but I'm thinking maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of do this over time, maybe bring in some of the other players. One of the things that I'll tell you for the podcast, it should be Pedro and I and pretty much everything. It'll be a nice mix of cast of characters for the rest. Hopefully, we'll bring people in that'll give you a different sound, a different feel for the game, a different feel for the players. Already, we have someone joining us in a few episodes. You get to meet that person, but you'll get to see some expansion into different games, different stuff that we're going to run. And hopefully you'll enjoy it. And as always, like us on Facebook.
Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us. We got Twitter. Having a lot of fun on Twitter and trying to build that engagement. So please follow us on Twitter. Engage. Talk to us. Tell us your favorite game. Tell us your least favorite game.
Ooh, and right in the Twitter, because they're on there, there's a Kickstarter that just finished fairly recently for the D Sanction, and they've been twittering a little bit back and forth. I am excited to get the game. That is something I'm looking at potentially running for us, but we've got a YouTube channel. We'd love to have you subscribe to that and like us.
We have Instagram as well. We got some content up there. We've been very fortunate to have a great artist.
An amazing artist.
Getting us some great content. So please go check that out. Tell us what you think. Let us know. Love hearing from you. And then also for the podcast, it'll be on YouTube, but we're also going through Anchor.
Right, that's the one that we just set up. We talked with them, and we've got our own section in Anchor.
We're going to be that's where we're going to have the audio podcast live. At least for now, while we're working on getting it to, Apple and Google and all those other places. So follow us if you like us. Let us know what you think. If you don't like us, let us know what you think and why.
And if you're somebody that would rather, write us a letter as opposed to writing us something simple, hopefully a not too harsh comment, you can also get us at ncrpproductions@gmail.com.
That's right.
And so with that, Pedro, thanks for joining me tonight.
Barry, thank you for joining me tonight.
Absolutely. And we will sign off, and we will talk to you again soon.
Talk to you soon, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another NCRP Productions podcast. We value your support and would love to have you like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all at NCRP Productions. You can also find our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, or wherever great podcasts are found. We value your thoughts, so please don't hesitate to leave feedback and comments. And if you want to reach any of us directly, we are available at ncrpproductions@gmail.com.